Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Welcome back to the second half of our candidate forum. We now want to hear from the candidates running for Ward 2 on the Beaumont City Council. The two candidates will now have 1 minute each to introduce themselves. So let's first begin with Jefferson Fisher.
My name is Jefferson Fisher, and I'm running for Ward 2 for City Council because I believe that Beaumont needs a breath of fresh air. I think we need to relearn how to talk to one another again, how to treat one another again. Because we need to hit the refresh button on how not only we talk about solutions, but more importantly, how we talk about problems. I will have the backbone, and I believe you've seen in this race, to stand up when I think something is wrong. I will have the backbone to disagree when I see it, but I can disagree without being disrespectful. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the drama that I continually see on City Council. Sometimes it's not about what you do, but how you do it. I am the demographic you want to see in Beaumont, Texas. I'm a hardworking father with a young family, and we want to make Beaumont better. I am the voice, the level-headed, tempered voice that you need on City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Now, Mr. Mike Getz.
My name is Michael Getz, and for the last 8 years, I have served you as your city councilman in Ward 2, which is located in the west end of Beaumont. During that time, I have not missed a single city council meeting. I believe that the #1 responsibility of a city councilman is to be available to listen to the needs of their constituents and to do everything that they can possibly do to respond to their concerns. I am a fiscal conservative. If I see something that does not make a lot of sense financially, I'm going to speak up and say something about it. Now, some people think that that makes me divisive. I call it doing my job. I have the time, energy, and enthusiasm to continue to serve you as a public servant, and I'm therefore asking you for your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Getz. Thank you both gentlemen for those introductions. We're going to take a quick break before we begin with our first question that deals with land in Ward 2. Stay with us.
Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Welcome back. Here's our first question for candidates in Ward 2. There are still some large parcels of land for sale in Ward 2, and we've already seen development along Major Drive and the opening of large service stations and other businesses not far from homes in relatively new subdivisions. What should be done to further develop Ward 2 while retaining the proper mix of business and residential areas? And so for the first answer, we go to Mr. Getz.
Thank you. The first thing that we should do to develop Ward 2 in a more economically prosperous manner is to extend Dallin Road all the way out to I-10. I have here a proposed graphic of what that would do, and it would increase the taxable value of that land from almost $5 million to over $373 million. This would be the single biggest thing that we could do in Beaumont to increase the economic value and vitality of this city. This is what we should do, is we should extend Dallin Road all the way out to I-10.
Mr. Fisher.
Well, that sounds great, but it will take years to do. I'm ready for it to happen now. Specifically to the question about mixed use, where it's commercial at the bottom and residential at the top, what the biggest thing that we can do to attract investors is, one, have a positive community growth, a positive outlook of way to reach the community, and second of all, to really lean on our local anchor institutions. We have Exxon, we have Motiva, we have a lot of vested companies that want to come and do business because it's mutually beneficial for them as well. So it's time to lean on our local institutions, for them to have some skin in the game, because it's all best for us to
Mr.
get
Fisher,
a better
that's
Beaumont.
time.
Thank
And
you.
when we come back, we'll talk about the concern of crime in Ward 2. Stay with us.
Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get to our next question. Police linked the death of Anthony Wilson to an auto burglary, and they say the suspects committed a number of burglaries in the Dallin West area of Ward 2. They also say many drivers are leaving their doors unlocked. So the question is, what would you do about the growing concern over crime and personal safety in Ward 2? That answer will go to Mr. Fisher.
Well, first of all, I need to say that the death of Ann is a horrible tragedy, and it's sad that it took something like this to really bring that issue to the forefront. What I have recommended, and what has the endorsement of the Beaumont Police Officers Association, is that I am recommending a neighborhood night watch, where the community comes out and the local police come through neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street, and point out the issues that are easy for the taking for criminals. Dark areas, get glow sticks, and make it food trucks and make it a community affair.
Mr. Getz?
I have asked Chief Singletary to increase neighborhood patrols, and I think that is something he is agreeable to doing. During the time that I've been on City Council, I have implemented more neighborhood associations than any other City Council member. I'm going to continue to encourage participation in neighborhood associations. We have also implemented, during the time that I've been on City Council, an app called Nextdoor, which serves as a virtual community to take care of
And that is time for that answer.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more questions for both Mr. Fisher and Mr. Getz.
But meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's get right to our next question, which is, what do you see as the most pressing need in Ward 2? The one thing that would make the biggest difference in the quality of life? And the first answer goes to Mr. Getz.
I do believe that we have some infrastructure issues in Ward 2, just like we do throughout the rest of the city. We, as a City Council, have recently allocated $3 million additional to help take care and resolve some of these infrastructure problems, specifically related to sewage issues. I think that if you can't use your toilet, you have some real quality of life issues in your community. So I think that is one of the things that we need to do, improve our infrastructure, specifically our sewage issues.
Mr. Fisher?
I would say number one would be the sewage issues. I've spoken to many houses over the past 4 months that aren't able to flush their toilet. That is an issue. Second of all to that would be crime. And that is going to not only knowing your neighbors, having more police, but also getting to know out there the problems that we're having to address specifically to custom by custom house. And I think one thing to raise the quality of life would be improving our parks. We could have local Blues on the Green concerts, volleyball courts, a lot of things to improve it.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. And when we come back, we ask our last questions, which have to do specifically with both Mr. Fisher and Mr. Getz. You're watching the Candidate Forum on Fox 4 News at 9 o'clock.
Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Now we go to our last two questions, which will wrap up this forum for the evening. The race between the two of you, Mr. Getz and Mr. Fisher, has become very heated. It's blowing up on social media, and many of those who support each of you have been very outspoken in their criticism of the other candidate. Do you think the focus has strayed away from key issues? For the first answer, we'll go to Mr. Fisher.
I would absolutely agree with that, and it's because, honestly, of the personalities of the opponent that I'm running against. I knock on from door to door, and there are people I've received hate mail, I've received all kinds of different issues, because it's people getting away from the issues themselves and turning into some type of personality. I know that between the two of us, we kept it very cordial. There was a bad blog. I discouraged that. I don't want anything to do with it, but I can tell you I'm running for the ward. I'm not running against my opponent's past.
And that's time, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Getz?
Well, unfortunately, this has been a very acrimonious race, and I think that it's interesting to note that when we sign up to run as a candidate in a race, we're asked to sign a code of fair campaign practices. It's a pledge, and it talks about doing things about not insulting your opponent or doing anything that would be libelous or defamatory about your opponent. Of all the city council candidates that have filed to run in this race, only one did not sign that pledge and turn it into the city clerk, and that was Mr. Fisher.
And so as a follow-up to that question, we want to know what is one question you want to ask the other candidate. And each candidate will have a chance to respond to the one asking the question. So, Mr. Fisher, since you responded last, let's go ahead and get your question for Mr. Getz. Mr. Getz, you will have 30 seconds to respond.
My question would be, Do you feel that your public service has been a good role model for the children of Beaumont? And I mean the personal ability to disagree and be respectful at the same time.
I do. I think that it is important to be able to stand behind your convictions and not just go along to get along. When you are on city council, you are elected to represent a group of constituents, and they want you to be their voice. And in that regard, you have got to sometimes cut away from the herd and be able to stand on your own 2 feet and say what you think and do what you say.
Okay, now, Mr. Getz.
Mr. Fisher, you are on record as saying that there should be some sort of provision to let people into the Melton YMCA, former YMCA facility. And in that regard, you have suggested that some sort of arrangement should be made. What exactly would you like to see done over there?
Sure. I met with Dr. Farrell, and what she does is a wonderful service. I do not want to interfere with her service in any way, shape, or form. If you read the contract, it says it will be open to the general public. Will be, as long as it does not unreasonably interfere with her services. I don't want to do that. That's why I think it could be open on the weekends. And to take care of any liability issues, she could sublease it out to a nonprofit who is engaged in youth intervention, and then get their own insurance policy to take care of any liability issues. I think there's a happy medium, and I refuse to believe that there isn't.
And that's time for your answer. And that wraps up our candidate forum for tonight. We thank you both gentlemen for staying with us late and doing this forum. We appreciate your time and your answers.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And we do want you to remember early voting begins this Monday, April 22nd, and Election Day is May 4th.